For all its inconveniences, Lang was satisfied with life in the high-rise, ready to move forward and explore life. How exactly? He had not yet decided.
High Rise is a movie without conflict, or more particularly, the film's plot doesn't have a conflict. High Rise is a movie that came out in 2015, made in Britain by director Ben Wheatley, and stars Tom Hiddleston, Jeremy Irons, and Luke Evans. It's a historical fiction, sci-fi, dystopian movie that some is weaker than most of its parts. Basically what happens in this movie is Tom Hiddleston lives in 1970s Britain and moves into this really ritzy and classist high-rise apartment building. The building's supposed to have everything in it a wealthy aristocrat could ever need. Throughout the course of the film, the building's conditions get shittier and shittier until it basically ends up like Rapture from BioShock, with lots of murder and orgies and stuff. When I said this film's plot lacks conflict, I must admit I was slightly lying. There is conflict in this film. In fact, there's a lot of it. Characters don't like each other, there's a struggle to survive, bad things happen. But what the film truly lacks is central conflict. Basically, if you go in and sit down to watch this film, you're going to witness a bunch of characters just up and deciding to ruin each other's lives for no apparent reason. They just all decided to become splicers instead of it happening organically due to cause and effect. Basically, every character's actions have no logic behind them. And the film makes it plainly obvious that these characters have the ability to leave the apartment building at any time. We see Tom Hiddleston's character go to work. Like, he doesn't work in the building, he works at an office, he's a doctor. I really don't understand why we, the audience, is supposed to give a shit about what happens to these characters when we know they can simply walk away from a literal dystopian hellhole anytime they please. It is never established that the world outside the building is as bad as it is within, so just leave. The fact of the matter is, High Rise doesn't demonstrate very good narrative verisimilitude, or in other words, the world presented isn't very believable. Now, this film is based off a novel of the same name, written by J.G. Ballard. I haven't read the novel, so I cannot say if this lack of real conflict stems back to it or not, but what I can say is that the film is missing an important aspect of what makes any story valid: conflict. I mentioned previously that High Rise is weaker than most of its parts. What I mean by this is that the film has some really nice production value. The acting is stellar, the set design is great, the editing and cinematography are perfect for the film's tone, and the soundtrack, done by Clint Mansell of Requiem for a Dream and Mass Effect 3 fame, is one of the most standout soundtracks I've heard in recent memory. The movie does have its moments. There are scenes scattered here and there that are legitimately well done, and make me forget about the central issue with the film. It would make a good film to teach in a Film 101 course, in the sense that its clips would make for good individual scene studies. But in the end, High Rise falls short and it almost exclusively lies within the film's narrative. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of another film that does so well in all other areas except for narrative coherence. Logical progression of events should be crucial for narratives of this nature, especially when the film's premise is based on such a rampant shift of situation over time. It needs reason, it needs cause. Same for the characters, they need reason too.